here.
Leo Bram here.
Rosalie Weiss here.
Michael McCabe here.
Great, thank you. We'll start by going into public input. So before opening public input, I want to remind everyone of the guidelines that are published in the policy manual. The total time is limited to 15 minutes. Each speaker is asked to keep comments to 3 minutes or less. All speakers are encouraged to present their remarks in a respectful manner. Committee members will not respond to public comment, and speakers should direct all remarks to the chair. If you have any questions about the guidelines, you can refer to our policy manual on the school committee webpage, specifically BEDH and BEDH-E. Kindly public comment is just one avenue to share feedback. If you have more to say or need additional time, you're always welcome to email the school committee at scchair@email.medfield.net. At this time, I'll open public input. Members of the public are welcome to comment here or on Zoom. If you're on Zoom, raise your Zoom hand. We ask you to keep your camera on if you have comment and you follow school committee policy for public input. Please be speaking no more than 3 minutes on any topics under the purview of the school committee. And whether you're here in person or on Zoom, please state your name and address for the record.
Nobody online. I mean, there are people.
Okay, moving on to the consent agenda. So the consent agenda this evening have the approve and retain June 4th, 2026 executive session meeting minutes, approve regular June 4th, 2026 meeting minutes, donations in the form of $5,000, an anonymous donation to be deposited into the Blake gift account to be used for new equipment and uniforms for the Blake Middle School track and field program, $719.92 to be deposited into the Memorial gift account for the Heidi Songs subscription for first grade, $520 from the NCPE to be deposited into the high school student activity account to cover expenses related to future speakers for the MHS DECA chapter. Do you have any questions, comments on anything in the consent agenda? Do I hear a motion to approve the consent agenda as stated?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay, moving on to new business and the MHS overnight field trip. Turn it over to Dr. Marston.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I see Carrie here, but I don't see Kate. I know Carrie has planned a science department trip to Iceland, and she's here to do a quick presentation about it. Answer any questions you have. I know the information is in your materials, Carrie.
Thank you, Carrie Lynch. I'm a science teacher at the high school, and we're hoping to do a science trip, focus trip. It's been a while since we've done one from the science department, and the idea of this trip to Iceland is to really connect the environmental topics that we're learning about in the classes. Iceland is really unique in the fact that it has a lot of geothermal energy sources, as well as having one of the only places that you can actually see divergent plate tectonic boundaries. So, and we study this in the environmental classes. The trip is planned for June 24th, which is the very, very last day if there are snow days. And we hope there's not, but if it's the very last day, we would leave that night. Since it's an overnight flight. The idea of the June trip, the weather in Iceland will be much more suitable for everybody to get out and experience things. And also, I think it has a lot of appeal where students who play sports have an opportunity to participate. Our other trips that typically run February and April, prohibit a lot of our varsity athletes because of the states tournaments and things like that. So this would be open to our current 9th and 10th graders. It would be not available to seniors because technically they would be graduated and we will have missed out on that. So it would be our current 9th and 10th graders as the target audience. And it's a shorter trip, but we're going to fly in and out of Reykjavik. I'm not going to say the other names because I will just butcher them, but there have lots of excursions from that center in Reykjavik. I think we're trying to, the total estimated cost was $4,838. That price is a private tour, so we would not be with other schools. I know that I talked with a science teacher at Dover Sherburne High School who just did this trip in April, and they said it was an amazing trip, and that the kids really enjoyed it. So, are there any other questions you have about that I can answer?
Yeah, so how many students?
We're anticipating between 15 and 20. We can do more, but we're based on sort of everything we're anticipating about 15 to 20.
And the 4,000 covers all costs?
Everything except lunches. So breakfast and dinner will be included. The only thing that students would pay would be lunches, since we'll be out and about.
That was very exciting.
Is it for students that are in like a certain class, or it can be open to just anyone?
No,
It's not
because
tied to
they'll
a particular
be,
class?
They'll be sophomores and juniors.
Okay.
They wouldn't have taken AP Environmental per se, or Environmental Studies, which is our class.
Okay, I didn't know if it was tied to that.
I'm hoping that it
It could be
builds
one day.
interest.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, so certainly after the trip, maybe they'll have a more heavy interest in taking those classes. But no, there's no prerequisite in terms of academic.
My nephew just went with the school and like raved about it and like wants that to be our next family trip.
I'll have to get that. his
I'm happy to
perspective.
share
Excellent.
how they went and like, who they went through, or just information that they have.
Great, thank you.
Having been to Iceland, it was a wonderful experience, and I think you and the students will enjoy it very, very much. Lots of, there's a beach with black sand.
Yes, that's on the
You're
itinerary.
doing good.
Mhm. And the Blue Lagoon.
In the Blue
so-
Lagoon, and of course the lava that you see that's old, and hopefully you won't see new.
Yeah. No, I know, that is, I was gonna say, the timing of the trip, the only thing that would sort of, inhibit anything is if there was some, I think it was like 10 years ago, there was a lot of volcanic activity in the ash, and it shut down all of the flights to Europe, but, that would be the one thing that I think would.
How many adults are going with students?
So we are budgeted for a 6-to-1 ratio.
Okay, thank you.
So if we get the, 15, that will be close to
And where are
getting a
you
third one.
staying?
We'll be staying in a hotel in Reykjavik,
Oh, right, okay.
and then day tripping from there.
Thank you.
I guess how you making provisions for students who may not be able to cover the $5,000?
The World Strides program has some mechanisms for them to get payment plans, but we're hoping to get the word out now so that students can plan ahead and maybe kind of commit to their summer jobs, putting some money away. So that's kind of the hope of getting this announced sooner rather than later.
And then the target is 9th and 10th graders. Is it, did you say AP and honors, or did you say all of us?
Everybody.
Everybody.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, because they won't have taken those environmental
Right.
science classes, yeah.
And students with special needs who might go, how would you cope with that?
I've taught all the classes within the
Oh.
high school, so I don't anticipate that being.
And the transportation, as you stay in the hotel and do day trips,
Yes,
what are you taking to?
they'll have a private coach for us.
Okay.
Again, since it's a private tour and we're not with another group and we're creating the dates ourselves, we'll have a private coach.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
All right, thank you very much.
Motion to approve Iceland trip?
Second?
Aye.
The art department trip to Italy, and the art department chair can speak to us at our, sure. Thank you. Okay, next up, we have a request to place a Bay State book collection bin on school property. The goal would be to provide a year-round opportunity for residents to recycle and repurpose books rather than sending them to the landfill. So we'll briefly hear about the proposal and ask any questions, and then we'll be how to proceed with the request. Thank you.
So, hi, school committee. I'm Nancy Irwin. I live at 5 Woodville Road, Medfield. I'm a member of the Transfer Station and Recycling Committee, and I'm a swap volunteer and the current, I guess, coordinator of the swap. This is,
Annette Wells, 51 West Mill Street. And I'm also a member of Transfer Station and Recycling Committee.
and a swap volunteer.
And a swap volunteer.
want to give you kudos for that. We all love the swap here, so I just so Jeff, you're missing out, I guess.
Well, you can come to the swamp and get by the man at the gate. If you say, I'm here to help Nancy, and even if you don't live in town, he will let you through. But you really do have to come and help me for at least 15 minutes.
She's strict on that.
So, well, the Transfer Station and Recycling Committee is committed to keeping things out of the landfill. And so is the swamp. I mean, that's why both of these things exist. So we are here to request that a book bin run by Bay State Book Company be placed in Medfield, hopefully on school property. We do collect books at the swamp, but the swamp is only open for 5 months of the year. It's only open from May through September. And so the other 7 months of the year, we don't want people throwing the books into the trash. So we were hoping to have a book bin, perhaps closer to the center of town if possible. And the thought was perhaps at Dale Street School. I noticed that as I drive by there, that those clothing bins from Bay State Textiles are almost always full. And so I know that people, not just students, but people that live in Medfield are just driving by and seeing them, and it's close to town. And so they're using those bins quite often.
Very good location.
Right. So we do feel like a bin on that property would also attract people to bring their books there. And we did measure the bins that are there currently, and I can give you the dimensions of the bins that Bay State Books would wish to put on your property. They would bring the bin to you. I understand that Bay State Textiles pays you for the fabric that we collect there. This company will not pay you for the books that get collected there, but they also will not charge you for this. They will bring a permanent metal bin there and put it there. They will come by and collect the books approximately every 2 weeks, but they will come more often if it's full. And sometimes when I see the fabric bin full, I do call them. I know the people at Bay State Textiles. I call them and let them know that the bins are full, and they come and pick them up soon. The dimensions for their bin is 55 by 55. Well, there are two different sizes, 55 by 55 by 4 feet tall, or the larger one would be 55 by 55 by 6 feet tall. And I noticed that there was a little bit of space there. We just went by on our way here. And the Bay State Textiles bin is a little bit smaller than that, but there is space next to those bins to have the Bay State book bin there as well. So that's what we're requesting. So do you have any other questions?
Just clarify that the money for the textiles
I'm familiar with the Bay State Book Program.
They're located in Rhode Island, but they're willing to come to Massachusetts. I mean, as a matter of fact, I think the library here in town, the public library in town uses them sometimes. And I think even the schools use them, the elementary schools, when they're doing their cleanouts. They do contact this company, and they come and take away their books at the end of the school year. And there is, this company does have a book bin already in Medfield.
Adams Street.
On Adams Street, but we feel like that's kind of out of the way.
Yeah. Do you know where the dog rescue is, or where the fitness place is? It used to be. It's right in that parking lot.
Oh, that is out of the way.
Yeah, we don't know how often it's even used, but it's there.
Right. So, so we were hoping to have one in the center of town, because we do believe that it will be used. And we get so many books at the swap during the swap season that it's like, yes, we have to find some place during these 7 months that the swap is closed to collect these books. There are 12 for fabric, and then there is one walk-in container, which is run by an organization called CMRK, and they do collect books as well. None of those is books. There used to be a book bin there at one time, I mean, years ago, but it got taken away for some reason or other. So there isn't nothing for books at all. Those 12 bins are all textiles, so clothing and textiles. DPW doesn't want that, no. Yep. I mean, they're talking about possibly reconfiguring the transfer station, and when they do, we can have this conversation again, but I'm thinking that I might be, a great-grandmother by then,
Plus, putting it in a central location would allow anyone, even without a transfer station sticker, to use it. So that opens it up to the whole town, and even beyond the town,
I think the only question or concern I would have about Dale specifically is if we end up in a space where we're doing some sort of construction over there, right? How does that work with the book bin? And if we look at the other schools, is there another option that might just make a little more sense? When in that space, we don't have to worry about relocating the book bin, right? Like, Wheelock right now also has the cradles and crayons.
Right.
Textile bin, like, would that be a better location? Again, just understand, I recognize it's not the center of town, but I would say the amount of traffic that you get over there from a parental standpoint is still pretty high, right? If you're looking at,
maybe during the school year.
And for the younger children, really.
Yeah.
In fact, I wasn't even aware until just last week that Cradles to Crayons was over there. And I've lived in town for 50 years, so obviously there's something wrong with the advertising there about that. So, I mean, I just know that when I go down past the Dale Street School, I mean, I see cars going down there, cars stopping there to put their fabric in those fabric bins. I just think that that would be an ideal location. And this company would take away the bin if you needed to do construction and, bring it back later.
Yeah, they could move it.
That's the question.
Yeah.
How easy is that for
As
them?
easy as
How willing are they?
As easy as a phone call
A
to the
phone
person.
call.
Yes.
Yeah, they would be cooperative.
Yes, and, we can be the contact person if the book bin gets full, to call and say, would you please come more often than every 2 weeks, so, we can do that. The only thing we're requesting of you is the spot, but we'll do all the rest, won't we?
Yeah, we would.
Probably should have voluntold to do that.
No.
No?
Motion to approve the book bin placement?
second, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So I will call them tomorrow and then to tell them the good news. And, should I contact somebody, one of you, to let you know?
You can contact central office, then we can coordinate it, so it's not during dismissal or arrival time. So they call superintendent's office. Or- It does.
Does it make sense to do it?
It's gonna be there tomorrow.
Probably.
I thought he was gonna be there tomorrow, so.
Oh, yeah, fair.
Wait till.
I mean, that might be a little bit
Probably
easier
easier.
next week, right? So
Yeah.
the last day of school is next Thursday, so then you would have the whole summer to place it and advertise.
And advertise, yes. And it was our advertising, yes. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Welcome, thank you.
Of Monday's vote. We're incredibly grateful to the community for coming out to the polls and supporting the override. I also want to extend sincere thanks to everyone who helped with the process.
Excuse me, could I,
Yep.
is it rude if we leave after our presentation?
No.
Thanks for asking.
I would be glad to stay and listen.
You're welcome.
You're welcome to stay. It's exciting.
Well, I'm really rather tired. I had a 6:30 a.m. medical appointment this morning.
Oh.
I need to go home and
Go rest.
sleep. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Hi, ladies.
Bye.
So I want to extend
Thanks,
sincere
Nancy.
thanks
Nice
to
to-
everyone who helped
That
out
was
throughout the
both.
process, whether they were attending meetings, sharing information, having conversations with neighbors, or encouraging participation. It really was a full community effort, and the engagement we saw at that town meeting and the ballot box reflects that. So thank you to everybody. And I'll turn it over to Dr. Marston.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So in your materials, you have a couple of things related to this. One would be the budget sheet that is similar to one that we talked about earlier in the process, but we highlighted the red high school math teacher in that, because if you remember, I didn't bring it, but 13th, I sent you an email because we got lots of concerns about looking at that second grade teaching position and class size. And I think I sent you an email that we looked at, different one. I sent the email on. I sent you an email saying that we figured out how to do it with the additional, with the retirement of 2 high school people that were making sure the principals of the department were going to hire a little bit lower. Thank you, Ms. Hi everyone, we figured out a way to preserve the 4th grade position while still keeping the 2nd grade position intact. This will keep class size reasonable if the override passes. The high school has 2 openings that will need to be filled in math and social studies, both higher salaries. We have restricted the amount of these 2 hires, which frees up the funds to be filled in the position. That was April 13th. I sent that to you folks. So I think, that's the difference in this form, is that we included that math teacher in there, and they took an additional reduction of $70,000 based on the savings that we had. So going through it, we looked at a 0.5 central office administrative assistant with the amount being $30,000. Mandarin teacher at Dale Street, 0.65 at $63,000. 0.64 Mandarin teacher at Wheelock at $48,766. And I will add that the Mandarin teacher that has been at the high school for several years is taking a different position somewhere else, and that frees up the Dale Street and Wheelock teachers to do both the middle school and the high school Mandarin program, so they're not going to lose their positions. They're going to still be employed by the district. But it reduces that program. The English teacher, which we had talked about doing that due to enrollment, that made a lot of sense to us. That was going to happen no matter what happened with the override, or no matter what, whether it was override or not, that position was going to be cut this year. The high school math retirement at $70,000. High school social studies teacher $113,000, and then the retirements at the Memorial School at $110,000, which equals the $529,836 or 4.55 FTE. And then we looked at the other areas that were not payroll, so we eliminated the paid committee work, which was the $35,000. That has not changed. The summer PD, Unit A, that is our R&D, that has not changed at $15,000. The IT software, that reduction was $30,000, with a non-payroll amount of $80,000, which are a total reduction of $609,836. So other areas that you may consider to reduce, we're not recommending these, but they're areas to consider. Middle school administrative assistant and guidance, that's a 1.0 FTE at $34,594. This one, again, I'm not really recommending it, but it's something that you could do. We have a privatized custodial company that does the memorial cleanup after school hours, and if we were to do that at Wheelock, it would reduce 2 FTEs, but we'd still have to pay for the service, but it nets out at $20,000. Again, not really recommending that, but you guys could decide that. And then the social studies department chair, which is a 1.0 FTE at $123,000. That would cause some problems in our high school schedule and kind of what we're doing in terms of the class schedule the kids have already picked out, and we have to really maneuver some things around, but there's still time to do that, but it would not be ideal if that was a position to cut. So those are pretty consistent recommendations that we've had through the whole process, and happy to answer any questions you have or concerns. I also included in there a memo of feedback from our world language department. Our elementary Spanish teachers provided feedback on how they would support our students with all elementary students participating in Spanish. Number one, teachers shared that both Mandarin and Spanish are taught using the same world language proficiency indicators: listening, speaking, reading, and writing. At the elementary level, all students are considered novice language learners, and instruction is designed accordingly. Teachers noted that it's common for students to forget some previous learned content, particularly after the summer break. This is true for students coming from both Mandarin and Spanish programs. Spanish instruction already includes significant scaffolding and supports, including visuals, gestures, sentence frames, word banks, student reference materials, predictable routines, and structures. The curriculum includes substantial spiraling and review, allowing students to revisit and build upon concepts throughout the year. Topics such as family, greetings, and personal information are revisited regularly across the grade levels. Teachers discuss being purposeful in collaborative pairings and groupings to support both academic and social transitions for any students that are entering Spanish from Mandarin. Welcome communication will be developed for students and families that emphasizes belonging, support, and a positive transition experience. And then one thing they added too, it's not a new situation for the world language program. Each year, students choose to transition from Mandarin to Spanish, and we regularly welcome students in grades 2, 3, 4, and 5 who move into the district with little or no prior world language experience. Overall, the teachers express confidence that students transitioning from Mandarin to Spanish will receive the care, compassion, instruction, and scaffolding needed to be successful, including their new language learning environment. So that was, I know that was a concern. Okay, so what is my kid now who's had Mandarin for 2 years? Now what happens? I think that was some of the concerns that we talked to the teachers about, and they felt pretty confident with what they did. So, hopefully they answer any questions or any other recommendations you folks might have.
I have a couple of questions about the language. One is just the being purposeful and collaborative with pairings and groupings. I guess I'm just, if you could say more, I think the students that I feel like it would impact the most are the rising fourth, the students are in the 5th grade next year, right? Because I appreciate, because my children go through it and they, forget the same words that they learn every year, but they have been doing something for the, so I guess I'm curious, if there has been intentional conversation about what it looks like for that specific group of kids that have had this little community and now we're losing it. And how I know that Dale does it a little bit differently in terms of WinBlock, if there's thought in terms of how they will be put into Spanish.
Yeah, so a couple of things. So the last one first. So WinBlock is definitely on the table for additional support. So Win is what I need. It's a block that's scheduled within the school day where kids get pulled out and get additional services or support in whatever area they're looking for. So that's definitely something that we would use to do that. As far as that particular group going to 5th grade, I think that was one of the questions that we have with the teachers in terms of their scheduling and how they would group kids. They came up with a couple of ideas. One would be to group those kids together and have other students that have had Spanish for several years to kind of work with them and part of a group, and others would just group them together and have the teacher work directly with them. And I think one of the things that sometimes we forget is that kids aren't going and writing in the language at this point. It's pretty, they're definitely novice learners, and it's pretty instructional at that point. And they review, and spiral. So they felt pretty comfortable about it. They gave me an example of a kid that moved in, and they worked with that child, and by the end of the year they were, or whatever, everyone else. So, I think that's definitely a concern that we had with this whole thing. Is that what about those children who have had 2nd, 3rd, and 4th grade Mandarin? Now they're going to be going into Spanish. We have that all the time where the kids that whatever they pick as their elementary language, oftentimes will switch at middle school. So that does happen a lot in the district where kids will switch. And then we have some children that will go, 2 to 8, and then get to high school and want to take Latin. And they switch again. So we definitely have that. I think it's not ideal for sure that we're even talking about this right now, but we had to make some decisions, I think, based on budget and everything, and this is how we thought in the leadership team. This is not Michael and I, this is the entire leadership team that came up with this, and they all feel pretty
So, just so we're clear on the asks, the recommendation for the 609,836 is what you're putting forward to reach the 3.64 today.
So you folks have already voted 3.64.
Correct.
You've
Yes.
already voted that. But what we left open that time we voted was what those reductions would be to get to that 3.64.
Correct.
That's what the ask is, to approve the reductions, but again, happy to.
And the other areas of consideration could substitute into that 609 if we didn't like something we saw up top.
You mean down below?
Yes.
Yes.
Just making sure I'm understanding what the ask is.
Can I, sticking with the Mandarin for a second, can I just ask you, do you have the numbers for what it has been, what the comparatively each year in terms of enrollment in it? Because I just think that I appreciate it's a small group. I also think it's a very committed group. So I think it would just be helpful to have that.
I'll give you an example of the cohort that started in 250, 216. That was the first grade cohort. The first group that came through from Mandarin. There were 33 kids in that group, and that's the group that just graduated.
Oh, this year?
Yeah, this year. So they just graduated. So 33 started in the program, 4 finished it. So by the time of the senior year, there were 4 kids left.
4.
4.
They took 4 years of the language.
Those four did.
Yeah.
Those four were in second grade until 12th.
Oh, I meant for, they took all 4 years.
All 4 years
at-
in high school.
At the high school?
Yes.
Yeah.
And so the other,
Typically see the biggest drop happening from fifth grade to sixth grade.
so
That's what we see.
the other students went to another language?
Right. So they went to Spanish in elementary, or most of them would go to Spanish or French in middle school. And then they stay with that the entire time, or they do Spanish or French and then do Latin in high school as well. So
Okay, I had some questions, so go ahead.
No, I was curious about numbers.
Because I was not here in my position, I just wanted to ask, the Mandarin for middle school, high school will stay?
yes,
So you're saying that from now on, there won't be anybody coming in at the elementary level with Mandarin? So we'd be eliminating Mandarin in middle school, high school in the future, or is that stays and,
well, you have kids that, like this, the next year's sixth grade would be the last group of children that have had it all the way through elementary.
okay,
So we would see how it would go from year to year. That's kind of a year-to-year decision based on enrollment. I don't think there's any plan to get rid of it altogether, but I think we would look at year to year what the enrollment would be. I mean, it was really hard this year. At one point, 2 weeks ago, we had 7 kids that were taking from fifth grade to the middle
I
school.
see.
And we're at 10 right now, so we're going to run a class of 10 kids at the middle school, which is
For Mandarin.
for Mandarin. I mean, it's not the most cost-effective thing to do, but we're committed to those students to go through.
And the other languages that are offered, Spanish and,
In French at the middle school,
French
and
at the
the high
middle
school would be Mandarin, Spanish, French, and Latin.
and French seems to continue to keep
It does. It
numbers?
has decent numbers.
I was going to ask about Latin.
Yeah.
That's really good projection.
Yeah, because, I mean, Spanish is popular. I wasn't sure how popular French continued to be.
It still is. And we actually could probably add more sections of Latin if we clone the teacher, so it's a really popular class.
Latin,
Latin,
Yeah, and it's a
when does
lot
that
of,
begin?
ninth grade.
Okay,
and that's a lot of book and written versus spoken, right, in Latin.
They do, I mean, it's a pretty interesting class. I mean, I took 4 years of Latin, so I kind of gravitate toward that. I like it. They do some really good stuff there.
And it's a precursor for medical programs. No, I think it is, actually.
I don't know, I took Latin, I didn't go to medical school, but,
Neither did I.
no,
Related to me, and we tried to cut it.
we didn't. They became doctors, but not the right ones, yeah.
My curiosity too is the impact on the, even though I know it's already, I'm assuming they're already playing for the English, math, and social studies teacher. And would if we were to consider the social studies department chair, would that be an additional social studies teacher? So that would be
So
2?
That would be not to rehire a retiring person. But it would.
And there's already a 1.0 reduction already on the table.
Right, so that would really,
Right.
some courses.
Gotcha.
But it's not a person because it's a retiring person.
No, I'm thinking about the programmatic. I guess these questions are programmatic. I should probably state it that way. The questions I have are more programmatic than, what is the programmatic impact and class size impact in those departments?
Very negative for both accounts.
Yep.
Would there ever be opportunity to bring Mandarin back to the elementary? Is that something that's totally closed, or?
There's always opportunity for it, and I think if it makes it to that budget cycle, if we can do something like that.
Yeah, it's just that Mandarin offers something very different and probably important in the future as, China becomes important, and it's nice to think that somebody has an opportunity to take a language like that.
Right.
Just
Some parents have reached out to about possibly doing, waiting for that time, if that does happen, to get back in elementary, of doing that in the school club, that kind of thing, to
Okay.
involve the children that still want to be a part of that. And we would be certainly open to doing that.
Thank you.
How many enrolled in Mandarin for this year for second grade? At Wheelock or second, third?
It's 14%, each, it's 14.8% of our kids in those two grade levels.
In those grade levels, gotcha.
It's pretty high.
Can you, social studies department chair, what does that mean? Is that a teacher, is that a part-time teaching, part-time admin position? Is that just admin? Okay, how many classes do they teach?
2.
And how many classes is on a regular caseload?
5,
6.
6.
5 or 6. So it would, we have one social studies person who is retiring and one who is going to another field completely. So it would really, it was one of these, one or the other in our minds, just to keep the offerings there and what was needed for electives and other coursework in social studies. I think 2 would be a big hit to that. It's possible. I mean, you can do it. I just think it would be a really big hit to that department, and it would leave them without a department chair. We'd have to kind of work with that.
Can you elaborate on like what the other responsibilities of the department chair are, other than, like, do they evaluate, do
So
they?
they supervise, evaluate, they work with curriculum, they work with Christine on curriculum, they look at all the data, they do assessments, they do everything like that, and they act as a coach to the teacher as well, so they're in the classroom and doing that kind of work. And they do all the administrative stuff too, with the ordering and all that other
Yeah.
stuff, but that's really not the important part. The important part is what they do with the teachers collaborating with them. They lead the meetings, and they lead the department chair meetings and all that. So when we go over data, we do all that for a particular grade, for a department, they're in there leading that, we'll do that. So,
An organizing factor of
Sure.
each department, each
they
curriculum
decide what
area.
teacher goes where.
Yeah.
and,
Yeah.
If there were efficiencies found between now and September, what would you restore?
When you say efficiencies, you're saying just,
New hires, freeing up budget, or would you hold it as contingency? Because there's always a para that's needed. There's always
oh, for sure.
yeah.
I mean, I think what we would do is I'd have to talk to the principals about it, because it would definitely change placement. So, we talked about this the entire time. One of the struggles with having the 2 different languages at the elementary level is that dictates the placement. And, that all the kids that take Mandarin in one class, all the kids that take Spanish in one class, and, sometimes that isn't always a good match with, different classrooms. So we've seen that as a problem as well. So we have to reshuffle that a little bit and move that around, because we want a situation where you have, kids out at Mandarin and then other kids in the classroom, and then coming back, it gets back to that concern that teachers have,
In and out, yeah.
Kids going in and out, that kind of thing.
Yep.
It would be great for that, for sure.
So right now, all the Mandarin students are in one,
Well, they-
kind
they
of
cluster
clustered?
together. Yeah, they cluster together,
Okay.
so it's not all usually between 2 classes.
Yeah. Do they come out of class, or does it happen in class, the language teaching
out.
instruction? They go out. Okay, thank you.
Well, some years it's depending on the states.
Okay.
So Mandarin actually comes in this year, and then, so every year is different based on states.
I recall it was very challenging to find someone who could instruct Mandarin. It's not as easy as...
Super young.
Yeah, I started it in several school districts, and that was a big challenge. How to find somebody who spoke well, had a good accent and all of that. So I understand that's very challenging.
So we're fortunate to have 3 really good people here, and it took a
Yeah.
long time to get that.
Yeah.
And one person is going to Weston High School person, and our other 2 teachers will, fill the gaps and do the middle school, high school, if this gets through.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what we're.
And we hired Jeff and his team to recommend, so I would be amiss. I worry about the support staff reductions. I worry about class sizes at the high school, but I'm assuming Dr. Marston and his team have come back and said that these are palatable under the circumstances, cuts, and would not put something else up otherwise. So that's why
Yeah, see, if the social studies department chair, but that'd be problematic. Again, anything can be done. Can't do anything. It's just.
I mean, I would say too, we've been looking at these for months now.
Yeah.
Like, I
Yeah.
recognize we haven't sat and like really deliberated over them. We've talked more about the number and again, recognizing that that number could change depending on what happened this past Monday. It's been harder to deliberate without knowing what that is gonna be. But I think, we have been looking at these specific reductions for the past couple of months, so.
I guess I have nothing else to add.
Okay. Vote to approve the reductions.
So moved?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay.
Not easy for sure.
No.
Out of order on the agenda, but Kate, if you would like to talk to us about Italy, we would love to hear about it.
Hi, Kate.
Hi.
How are you?
Good. I'm sorry, I was across the hall for the past hour. I thought this started at 6:30, so I apologize.
Okay.
Welcome.
Okay, I'm excited to present a proposal for a trip to Italy with the art department. And I'd like to take 20 to 30 students to Italy for spring break in the spring of 2027. And this would be our 5th trip. We tend to go every other year, and it coincides with the AP Art History course, which runs every other year at the high school. And we would take AP Art History kids, AP Studio Art kids, and advanced drawing painting, like the upper level classes for art classes. And I did have a presentation right here Tuesday night. We had a good turnout. I got about 20 names, and I estimate there are students that wanted to come, but I couldn't make it because they contacted me via email. And I've talked to, and I did some shopping around for prices, and I got an itinerary from ACIS, which we previously shopped with, or gone traveling with, and it was a little bit of a sticker shock, so I shopped around a little bit more, and I've decided to go with Hart Travel, which has Medfield connections. Stephen Hart lived here, and they've also organized trips with the Spanish department, the Costa Rica trip. So I have a 7-day itinerary which flies from Boston to Rome, and we'd spend a few days in Rome seeing all the sights, and then, I don't know if you have the itinerary. Oh, okay. And then we'd travel to Orvieto, some medieval cities, and then onward to Assisi, spend a night in Assisi, and then to Siena, spend a day trip there, and then land in Florence in the evening, and then spend several days in Florence, see all the Renaissance highlights, and then fly home to Boston. And in the past, it's been very popular. I know we have a lot of trips running in the spring, so those have been, we've had a lot of commitments there. So in the past, we've taken 40 students. I think it'll be a little smaller this time. We'll probably end up between 20 and 25, 30 students. And it would be myself, Meg Drew, and our teacher, and Paul Catino taking the students with us. We're really excited to go.
Cool.
So, does anyone have any questions?
No Pompeii.
No, the prices were getting like upward of
Right.
$6,000, $6,500.
Okay.
We wanted to keep the price down to keep it like a little more inclusive. I was a little embarrassed to like be proposing trips with that amount.
Oh, right.
I felt a little bad asking for that kind of money. Already people are asking where can I get help, to help pay for it. So we wanted to keep the cost down. And another thing we wanted was not to spend so much time on buses and keep the travel a little more compact. Spend more time roaming around the cities. So we wanted to keep it Rome, Florence, and a couple medieval cities in between. And that's what the students really loved the most, were Rome and Florence in past trips.
It makes sense to visit fewer and do it more intensely, for sure.
Yeah,
I just wondered, because I liked Pompeii very
I
much.
know, I liked it too.
Very exciting.
It's a kind of a far,
I
it's a
know.
bus trip. It's a bus trip.
Yes, or
Yeah.
a train trip or whatever, yeah.
Mhm. So we travel, yeah, in between we travel by bus.
Oh, okay.
But I kept cost in mind. Anything over 6, it seems a little, it's a tough ask.
So what do you provide for parents who would have difficulty financially? How do you?
Well, Medfield Outreach has helped
Oh,
in the past.
okay.
And, I mean, that's the only one I can think of. I mean, it's not a required trip, but Medfield Outreach had some help for students in the past. But that's the only thing I can think of right now. But I can reach out to Hart, maybe they have some suggestions. I know ACIS had some suggestions in the past, maybe Hart does something similar. But the trip does include, this is all inclusive, the flights, the bus travel, breakfast is provided, dinner is provided, lunch is grab it, we do, have the kids sort of go off on their own, and they get their own, which is awesome for them. All the individual tours, they have, we have hired tour guides. That's all included. All the tipping is included on the trip. So when I've gone, the first time I went, I thought, oh my gosh, I have to bring all this money. They really don't spend a lot once we're there, So it really is all inclusive. So $46.50 if we take about 28 students. We like to have one chaperone per 7
Okay.
kids.
What grade levels again?
11th and 12th. And I talked to Stephen Hart today, actually. We were hoping to open the portal tomorrow, if it's approved.
It's a good thing you came. It almost got tabled to August, just so you know.
Well, I was actually 100 feet away. I honestly thought the meeting started at 6:30, so I apologize for that.
No worries.
But I can always call them and say postponing, but I wanted to get this sort of like before the end of the school year. I wasn't sure if the course was going to run.
Oh.
Because that's why I had it all in order, but I wasn't sure if the course was going to run.
That makes sense.
Extenuating
That
circumstances.
makes sense.
Yep.
There's definitely interested kids. I mean, I've heard about it from other students. One of them at my house before I left, that was like,
Yeah, we've done
go to
it
school
since
committee because
2016.
they're going to talk about the trip.
This trip or variations. We try to make it a little different, just for the chaperone's sake, but because, Miss Meg Drew and I have done it every other year for several years, and we like to change it up a little bit. So we've done it for, 10 years, off and on, every other year. So we've done it several years. It's always popular, but this year it wouldn't be like, we've had years where they're like, it's 9 a.m., you've got to get on the button. Because the Spanish, people were saying, is it going to run? So the Spanish trip not the Spanish department trip, the Costa Rican trip is the one that everyone sort of jumped on. I think they have over 40 kids. Because this one was a maybe.
Well, I'm glad you
Last
chose
week, actually, with this.
April and not the summer. I'm glad you chose April and not
April.
the summer.
Summer's too hot.
Yes, that's what I was thinking.
Any other questions?
Sounds awesome.
Hear a motion to approve the Italy trip as presented?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you, and
Thank you.
again, I apologize.
Oh, no worries. Open portal.
If you missed it,
Yeah.
All right, next up we have MMA's end of year update. They unfortunately couldn't make it, so I'm going to read the update. So to start, we would like to express our sincere gratitude to the school committee, Dr. Marsden, Jason Bielik, and the entire music staff, and the principals and staff at each school for their commitment to music education in the Medfield public school system. We would also like to thank our generous donors, community sponsors, and amazing volunteers for their incredible support throughout our very busy 10-month-long music program. This year, MMA was able to support the music program by funding $8,450 for clinicians and stipends. These included stipends for Dale Chamber Orchestra Director, Blake Jazz Band Director, Blake Jazz Lab Director, MHS Jazz Lab Director, MHS Jazz Combo Director, choral accompanist, and sound engineer. We supported clinicians for both the high school and middle school programs. $9,200 total in scholarships. We awarded $2,000 to seniors and $7,200 to students in grade 4 through 11 for summer study and private lessons, which supports the music students' education over the summer and throughout the year. $2,700 for those in financial aid for the New York City trip in February, which included a total of 55 students between the jazz band, sound waves, and chamber orchestra. The students participated in 2 professional musical clinics, toured Carnegie Hall, and attended a Broadway musical. It was a tremendous opportunity for our student musicians to grow artistically while sharing lifelong memories together. We had a busy year of fundraising, especially with adding 2 new ones to our schedule. For the first time, we successfully partnered with Rib Public Barbecue for a Super Bowl fundraiser and received $903 with a total of $4,513 raised. We also offered professional photo shoots taken by Jeff Snella for the entire music program. It was a fun first try, and the kids that participated really enjoyed it. We split the proceeds with Jeff, and MMA profited $425. MMA hosted Swing Night at Dale Street for a second year in a row. It's an evening full of jazz, played by the high school jazz ensemble, and swing dancing led by a professional instructor. The event was a success, netting $1,797, as well as a great community publicity. Our annual wreath and bulb sale is always a huge success, with a net total this year close to $5,000. Spaghetti and Snowballs is a community favorite, and this year was no exception. It was a festive and fun evening as the high school students played and sang all through the school hallways, while the families enjoyed a spaghetti dinner, huge bake sale, and impressive raffle baskets. Our net total was $5,881. Acapella night was a complete sellout this year. 7 local acapella groups performed with headliners Beelzebubs from Tufts University. The evening was incredibly entertaining and successful as we raised a net total of $6,014.43. The co-presidents continued the $5 challenge speech at Bandorama and String Flame, which was an initiative started last year and proved to be a huge success. We asked all families to scan the QR code in their program and donate $5 or more, and in a matter of just 10 minutes between the 2 concerts, we raised a net total of $4,942.77. Jazz Night took the house down as always, and MMA was able to provide the headliner and clinician, Donnie McGlasson, for the event. Donnie is a renowned American jazz saxophonist and 3-time Grammy nominee. Not only did we net $3,565 from the event, but the students gained worthwhile knowledge from and exposure to an acclaimed professional musician for the day. We hope all of you have seen either on our social media, in the Hometown Weekly, or in the Blake and MHS Weekly News updates how accomplished and award-winning our music program truly is across all ensembles. To recognize a few major highlights this year, we had solid representation at districts with 14 students from grades 7 through 9 for junior districts and 13 high school students selected for senior districts, as well as 6 high school all-state participants. The MHS Jazz Ensemble earned 2 gold medals, MAJE and state finals, and performed at the Hat Shell in May. The MHS Jazz Combo and Blake Jazz Band also earned an MAJE gold medal. The Jazz Combo was also awarded the exciting opportunity to perform at Boston's Regatta Jazz Club in April. Additionally, MHS Concert Band, MHS Symphony Orchestra, MHS Concert Choir, and MHS Honors Treble Choir also all earned gold medals at MICCA. The Blake Ensemble, 7th, 8th grade band, 7th, 8th grade orchestra, 7th, 8th grade chorus, and Blake Chamber Strings are no exception, with all groups earning gold medals at the Great East Festival. A truly extraordinary accomplishment for the ensembles and directors. One of our continued goals this year was to ensure that these hardworking and talented musicians were getting recognized, not only within the music community, but also outside of it. We made great efforts to enhance their exposure by utilizing our social media platforms and the Hometown Weekly newspaper to keep our community at large informed of their accomplishments, awards, and outstanding performances. We would like to thank the businesses from the community that provided support to the music program this year. BJ's Wholesale Club, Needham Bank, Roche Brothers Supermarkets, Cooked Perfect Meatballs, Shaw's Supermarkets, Mother Anna's Restaurant and Bar, Middlesex Savings Bank, Gravitate AI, Thistle Communications, Manning and Bill's Properties. And looking toward the 2026-27 school year, we are excited about the new fundraising ideas, events and trips that are already in the works. MMA has allocated a significant amount of funds to help support students' financial needs for the Big Florida trip in January. Lastly, we'd like to sincerely thank the music department and the administration for providing enriching opportunities in such a supportive and nurturing environment to all our music students and their families. Medfield Music is a highly competitive program and widely respected across district and beyond. MMA is proud to support such a special, successful, and highly regarded group of students and teachers. Thank you. Sincerely, Sue Tenhagen, Co-President, Meg Kabzud, Co-President, Medfield Music Association. So that was their update. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, they did great work. All right, so historically we hold an end of the year workshop where we take a deep dive into topics that have surfaced throughout the year. That's actually how the Mobile Tech Task Force came about. This year, as everybody knows, has been pretty demanding with a lot of focus and uncertainty around the budget. So some of the topics that might organically rise to the surface over the year just kind of didn't happen this year. So as a result, rather than holding our traditional end of year workshop, we thought it would be valuable to spend our time taking a deep dive into the strategic plan and helping focus and align the committee around those priorities. So tonight's discussion is intended to ensure that everyone has a strong understanding of the strategic plan and how it guides our decision making, helping us grow and strengthen the district in a way that remains aligned with the vision and goals that have been established by the community. So that's kind of the why behind we're doing this. I'll turn it over to Dr. Morrison.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Here, make sure this works all the way over here. So one of the things that we thought about is that 3 out of the 5 schools.
One quick question.
Oh, sure.
If people have questions, do you want them to hold them to the end?
Oh, no, interrupt. Yeah.
If you guys have questions.
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the things that we realized is that 3 out of the 5 members were not on the school committee when we developed this. So I thought it made a lot of sense that we go through the entire process in which we did in 2023 to establish the strategic plan and what we did and the whole group of folks that were involved in it. So we're going to go through that first and talk about the plan itself, and then traditionally the last meeting of the year, I give an update of where we stand when the goals have been established at the beginning of the year. So we've had a cadence over the last couple of years is that September, October, we look at the goals for this year and what we're trying to target on the strategic plan, and then we do a mid-year update around January, and at the end of the year right now we'll do a typical update, but this time we want to encompass the process, the plan, and the update all in one. So going through the whole process that we started, you see we had wide representation in our steering committee. So we had administrators, teachers, the screen over there for you, so we put that one up so we wouldn't have to just keep spinning around. Lots of teachers, parents, and students. So we had a lot of great meetings. We worked with a consultant from TLA, who that's part of what they do is strategic plans, and had many great meetings with this group, and a lot of issues surfaced that we wanted to really include in our strategic plan, and that was part of that whole process. So what is the strategic plan? It's the powerful tool that can assist the district in staying focused on what's important, what it needs to be, and how it can achieve its goals. And these deliberate actions are puzzle pieces that fit together to create a clear picture of how people, activities, and resources of the organization can work effectively to accomplish a collective purpose. So that was the baseline that we started with. So we had a common understanding as part of the steering committee of what we're trying to do and what our purpose was as a group. And we had 3 phases in the process. So we had to build the foundation, building the plan, and then implementing the plan. And that took probably about several months to go through that whole entire process and then implement the plan. So phase 1. So phase 1, we looked at the relevant data representing the performance of the schools. So we looked at MCAS data. We looked at any baseline data that we collect at the elementary or middle school as far as testing. We looked at AP scores at the high school. So we took a look at all of that information and they collected that. So we had a series of 11 forums. So the company typically doesn't do that many. They do 5 forums. But we asked them to do additional forums to get everyone involved and collect as much information from the stakeholders as possible. So they did 6 extra forums, which was really great for them to do for us, and it allowed us to get a lot more information as part of that process. We did conduct a survey in the community and with parents. We had over 100,000 respondents, which was great. A lot of really good information. They took the data, disaggregated it, and started to code it by some of the themes that emerged in part of the data. So we had coding done with the survey, and then we had coding done with a forum, so that it allowed us to really look at what some of the important and key factors were that people wanted us to focus on. And then they collected additional data around demographics and that kind of stuff for the district, and we used that collectively as we had our conversations. So in phase 2, we began the important work of kind of analyzing all the external and internal data that we got, and we did that in groups. So we had groups that were some administrators, teachers, and kids, some parents, and we just all got together and looked at some of that data and really tried to look at what some of the themes that were coming out of it. We also looked at our former strategic plan that was ending in 2022. So we looked at that and what are the things that didn't get accomplished or things that were accomplished in that plan that we could carry over into the new one. We established kind of strategies for each priority and some of the key actions. So that took a lot of time. So once we looked at what some of the issues were that emerged, we did this through chart paper and everything and conversation. Then we really tried to nail down what were the strategies we were going to use to accomplish those goals. And that took a lot of time, several meetings to get that done. And then we revisited the vision, mission, and core values. So there's one thing that was really important to me is to make sure that we establish core values as a district, because we had pockets of it, like one school had this, another school had that, and there was no real overarching core values of our district, which was really important to us, and I wanted to make sure that was part of the process that we did during the phase 2. Phase 3, we discussed how the contents could be implemented. We discussed the mechanism for reporting, which I'll get to when we get farther into the presentation. And then the community was given an opportunity for feedback. So we sent out a draft and we got feedback from the community, went through that process again with another meeting and analyzed all that feedback and added where we thought we should add, and then subtracted where maybe things didn't belong in the plan. And then we did an FAQ as well, and we posted the document online. If you remember, there's got to be one in here somewhere, but we have posters in every single classroom that has our mission, our vision, our core values, and our 4 priorities that came out of the district strategic plan that guides our work every day. So that was a really quick overview of something that took months to accomplish. But I think it's a really good process to get as much information. We'll do it again with the Dale Street. Get as much information as you can from the community. What are some things that they think are important to work on? What are some aspects that maybe when their kids were in school were important, and they want to preserve those aspects of the Medfield Public Schools. So all those kinds of things really came out, and definitely a worthwhile process for us. The core values piece was, as I said, was really important. So they kind of defined the foundation of our work, and we took a lot of time with it. Several meetings to kind of really, what are the key things that we think are important as a district, and we settled on the inclusivity, the respect, responsibility, and continuous growth. And we gave examples of what that looks like in action so that everyone on the steering committee could understand that. And when we put this out as a document, we wanted to make sure that folks understood exactly what continuous growth, responsibility, respect, and inclusivity look like in our district. It's the behavior of the adults. The adults model this behavior, those 4 core values. That drives all the behavior of the adults, and then therefore students will follow. But it really does become the foundation of our work in the district. The vision statement was kind of aspirational, like where we want to be in 10, 12, 20 years, and what do we do with our work. So we went through all of that and became our North Star as we go through this process. Because we were putting blanking on the company right now, the clock company. Oh my God, totally blanking. Huh? Electric Time, thank you. We wanted to use, we got permission to use their clock as part of our information. We wanted to include time as part of our vision. We thought that was really important. So we settled on it in embracing our time together to empower students to make a meaningful difference. And that was a really important thing, that's our North Star. That's what we kind of strive for every day, and that becomes our vision statement as we look at it. And then we went into our mission statement, which it answers the questions of what is it that we do in this district, who do we serve, what are the results that we do each day, and this is kind of the driving force of what we do every day in our district. And we came up with this: Medfield Public Schools, in partnership with families and community, fosters a safe, inclusive learning environment, empowering our students to meet high standards, adapt to change, and become responsible, contributing members of society. So as you can imagine, that you don't get a lot of consensus the first time around on that. So we did an exercise where we individually wrote something based on all the data that we got, information that we got, and then we got together in groups, and then the consultant led us, the whole group, in let's wordsmith and get it so it makes sense for a lot of people. So that was not something that took 5 minutes to do. That was very lengthy. As you can imagine, folks have strong opinions on what they think the mission should be and what it is, and we went through that process, and again, it came up with this statement, which we're really pleased with. I think it really shows what drives our district every day. And then we looked at a theory of action. So, what is the set of actions that we implemented in order to improve the organization and help it reach its mission? So that the theory of action is closely related to the priorities and strategies and how the implementation to lead the organizational improvement. So what you'll see in the theory of action is pretty close to and meshes well with our core values, our vision, our mission statement. So our theory of action: cultivate a safe, inclusive learning environment, empowering our students to meet high standards, adapt to change, and become responsible, contributing by fostering safety, belonging, and well-being for all, offering high-quality curriculum instruction, enhancing our communication, creating partnerships between home, school, and the community, and then maximizing the potential of students, staff, families, and community through effective resource allocation. So those are common themes that emanate throughout our entire strategic plan, and that becomes our theory of action and how we get through the plan. So our 4 priorities that emerged out of this whole process, and one of the things that we look back on, we talked about it after, is that maybe we shouldn't have called them priorities, because folks really got stuck on things like safety, belonging, well-being being the first priority, and that's all you care about kind of stuff. Like that narrative kind of came out of it initially. So we could have used something like pillars, the district pillars, and those are the 4 pillars of the district. We chose priority, but I think in retrospect we might, if we do that again, we would maybe choose a different word because of the confusion it caused. We weren't saying that these aren't any order, they're just the 4 that we chose. So safety, belonging, well-being was 1, community engagement and communication was 2, curriculum instruction and assessment was 3, and then finance, facilities, and personnel was 4. So what you'll see in the plan is all of these actions and items and goals are all developed around these 4 areas. So questions about the process and how we got here?
Not so far.
Okay. So the update that I'm going to go through now is an update, the third of the school year, based on what we decided in September were going to be the key areas that we're going to look at and address during the school year. So there's a lot of slides here and a lot of information. So I'm not going to read every single part of the slide, but I will kind of go through some of the highlights, and certainly there's a lot of really good stuff coming out of our strategic plan. So safety and belonging, we were going to focus on 1.1, which was evaluate current practices to support student and staff well-being, and that's something that we've keyed on the last 3 years. That's been a constant for us. So one of the things that we did this year is a really big initiative for us is Wayfinder and implementing that district-wide. So we did do that, and lessons, if you're in elementary, were weekly. If you were secondary, they were either bi-monthly or monthly. And we got a lot of good feedback on that, and the schools have now met and decided and talked a little bit about what 26 and 27 looks like in terms of their implementation and what areas they're going to focus on. That has been, that was a big undertaking, even though it's called, a plug-and-play program. It's still a big undertaking for teachers to put that in their day. At the secondary level, make it a part of advisory, really important. And again, the feedback was really positive. And Blake did an interesting way. They did each lesson for 2 days, as opposed to just doing it on one advisory period or doing once a week. So we've been talking about what the model might look like next year and whether or not that was something we would do or keep it school specific with that. So that's been really good conversation around that. Multi-tier support, MTSS, the data sharing and evaluation among staff, we've been doing that. We have a a meeting as part of leadership, and each school targets an area that they're looking at, and we sit down at leadership and go over some of those data points. Like, for instance, elementary, it could be visits to the nurse. And we look at how many visits to the nurse in certain children, and then what does that tell us, and what can we do to support those kids? Or it could be attendance at the secondary level, or it could be tardiness at secondary level. Those kinds of things that we really try to look at the data and how can we support and help our students in that way. The Metro West Health Survey, we've just started getting the new data from that. We had a leadership meeting a couple of weeks ago in which the department chairs and all of us in leadership sat down and went through the data and had a pretty good conversation for about an hour and a half on what some of the trends were and what some things that we're going to look at, and then we'll be much more on that in the fall. But that was our initial kind of look at the data, and we haven't gotten the finalized data yet. We should get that Medfield specific finalized usually in June or July. So we're looking forward to going through that. And we talked about, we used to have it as part of not only school committee, but a special event so parents can come out and tie it together with something. We've talked about bringing that back. I know years ago it was shared with parents, and there was a social host law part of it as well. So that was kind of the hook to get people in, and then once they're there, kind of go over the data and have conversations with parents about that. One of the things that I think was actually on the news tonight, Channel 5, was that Paul Catino got some information in a unit on gambling. And I think one of the things that we saw in Metro West, and I think what you see if you know any, it tends to be males that are 17 to 25, is an awful lot of gambling going on in sports. And Paul took a course and took a workshop and got the information and has piloted this unit at the high school, looking at gambling and how that impacts you, and some of the reasons why that isn't a great idea for kids to be doing and spending their money on. So that was part of it. But I think Channel 5 was doing something. Paul had sent me an email earlier tonight showing the Medfield class and what they were doing with the gambling prevention. Homework practices at Blake, a lot of review around that goes on, the no homework weekends. And then something new that came out was a high school, they hosted a coaches symposium in March. So they got all the coaches, all but 2 of all of our sports, fall, winter, and spring, got them in here on a Sunday. And they spent a lot of time talking about, things like our core values, what are some great ways that, we can support our athletes, and then there's a good back and forth on best practices on communication with athletes, those kinds of things. So it was really a neat idea that Robert and Brenda had to do that, and Eric, and they got everyone in here. So that was like a Sunday afternoon in March, and they thought it went very, very well and was positive. We're going to do it again next year. So it allowed coaches to maybe ask questions with other coaches in the room that they don't ask because they're just not all together like that, and just have conversations on communication, coaching techniques, all of that. So, and really focusing too on the standards that we have as a district and what we expect our coaches to do and behave. So that was great. So that was the end of 1.1 for this year. 1.2, looking at a sense of belonging. Even though it's student voice in the strategic plan says 6 through 12, we had some other items in there that filter down to the elementary schools. So getting feedback from our 9th grade students on the transition from 8th grade to 9th grade and what the high school experience looks like for them. That's something that we've been focusing on. We have DEIB student team at the high schools. That's diversity, equity, inclusion, belonging. And we have a student-led team there. We have one of those. We have one of those committees at every single building with teachers in a district-wide one as well. And then Memorial has an Everyone Belongs grant that they've been working on that they got this year. And they start each day with a really positive Everyone Belongs song in the morning, which is great for the little ones, and they love that.
Do you know it?
I do not know it, no.
Did you want him to
I don't know if that was
sing
part of the
it?
presentation, yeah.
You wouldn't want me to say that. So just some ongoing stuff. We continue to look at the cost of the Medfield experience. We have something that's really important to us to look at. I think the presentation that you got before I came on is something that we talk a lot about, is how can we make sure that every kid has an opportunity to go to Iceland or go to Italy. And that's something that we struggle with because we want to give the experiences, but we also want to make sure that everyone has that opportunity. And we've documented the cost of this experience, whether it's paying for lessons for musical instruments or doing something with sports, there's just a big cost that really ramps up in middle school and high school. And we're just trying to document that and curate a document that has all that information so that we continue to just bring awareness to it. And like one of the things that we looked at the high school was some of the practices on the sports teams for having dinners before games and those kinds of things. They just get expensive, and not everyone can do that. So trying to, peel that back a little bit so that not everyone is having to do that. So those are the kinds of things that we're talking about in that experience. And then I think the Blake Book Club was a neat idea this year, which not only the community was involved, but teachers, everyone, students, and that was a neat idea that didn't get a lot of participation, but I think that's something that will happen next year and just continue to grow as we go through that. And I think the library books, always trying to get additional books on diverse perspectives and representation of our students in the library, which is really important for us.
I think the total, the data collection of the cost of Medfield experience, is something, we just saw 2 more trips tonight that are, $5,000 a piece, which is not a small amount of money.
Not a small amount of money.
And that's why asking the population, that are attending those trips, the music lessons, tutoring, I think, is one, as that I'm, so just want to punctuate that.
Yeah, it's expensive. Yeah.
Is there a plan to share, because I feel like there's been a lot of cost of it, but no one wants to say any numbers of like how much, like, do you know what I mean?
I shared it at one meeting, I just want to get a water.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I did share it at one meeting, and I forget what the
Okay.
number was, but it was.
Or I think in high school, then it just, that
Yeah.
went away.
Yeah, I think they're still gathering information on that, but we're happy to solidify that number for the fall, for sure. Yeah. But it's unfortunately, it's a lot higher than it used to be,
Yeah.
right? And
I also think though, like as a community, like some of that is on us as parents. Like when you think about the high school and some of the sports and some, like I know I spoke with the high school about it and like have heard about it from neighbors and friends. Just so I also think that some of that is on the community, right? Like that's not necessarily the school. Like that's also us teaching our kids like what is important and do we have to, like how do we show gratitude towards each other that is not through just monetary gifts, right? So I think there's school responsibility and like coach responsibility, and I think coaches meeting is like a great start, but I also think like there is parent responsibility there too, that it's not just.
And we're trying to bring awareness to it.
Yeah.
I think people don't even,
Yeah.
they don't even know, so we're trying to bring it.
I think, and I saw some evidence of this, like the team dinners for the track team, was one that they do host before the track meets, that, my son was a part of, and collectively, people all brought things, and they all come together. So I thought that was well organized. So
we've seen it go different directions. We've seen the traditional spaghetti dinner where everyone just, makes that and take them over and eat. And we've seen catered dinner. So it runs the gamut. So that's what we're trying to just bring awareness to the fact that not everyone can do that, and maybe we need to kind of relax a little bit on some of the traditions around sporting, eating, providing gifts for seniors and things like that. We just kind of, and it's all internal within the teams that's happening. So.
On another topic under safety and belonging, I keep reading that bullying and all of that is increasing throughout the state, and I'm sure other places too. Does the safety and belonging section deal with that, or are you dealing with that in the strategic plan at all?
And so we've definitely mentioned that, and that's something we had to update our bullying plan last year. We have to update every couple of years. So
Right.
we've just gone through that process and got feedback from our school site councils, which was great. They gave us feedback on the bullying plan, and then we made some adjustments based on their feedback. So I don't know if we explicitly put it in there. I have to double check.
I wasn't sure I saw it, so I was just asking.
Yeah, I think you're right. I don't think it's explicitly written.
Okay, thank you.
So before we get too far into the slides, I just wanted to make sure I understand
Sure.
how that info is organized. So what we have seemed to spend most of our time talking about so far were some of the listed out bullet points which are the accomplishments, things that have been ticked off this
Right.
year, right? So the plan that came out of this process, which I think was really ably described, that's represented by like the 1.1, 1.2.
Correct.
These are the not bullets, but lines that tie back to each one of these priorities, help us
Right.
execute on each of these priorities, right? Okay.
And not every single one is listed for this year. So
That's where I was going,
yeah, so not
yeah.
every single one. So you'll see other areas not in sequential order because there's something there that we either did a couple of years ago or we're going to do next year or the year after. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Is there, and I get that this is an output, this is a progress update, that makes sense, and I get why it's framed this way. Is there like a different document that articulates, like 1.1, evaluate current practices to support student and staff well-being, and then has, at some point where each of these accomplishments articulated as goals, and we are now executing on them in like 25, 26, and is there like another set of bullets that, we are looking forward to hitting in 27, 28, or?
So that's what we have it on the strategic plan itself. You see the timeline on the far right. It says when our target is for all of those. So on the plan, if you go on our website, there's a
Okay.
button in the middle.
Cool.
If you hit on that button in the middle, then it will go right through the entire thing, and it will show you what the projected timeline is in 23 when we're thinking about. Some of them are right on time, some of them are not.
Okay.
Just depending. It was kind of what we thought at that point in time.
Gotcha, thank you.
We're good.
Yep.
So a DEIB committee and school reps, something really exciting that happened just a few weeks ago was Building Belonging, Cultivating Inclusive School Culture. It was a grant that was approved by MCPE that was written by Nat and Brenda. So that's going to be something that in the fall of this year, we're going to have at the middle school and high school, so people are really excited about that. Again, the library books we talked about, monthly district-wide and school-based meetings with the groups, which we've had in place for a couple of years now. Our mission statement, if you remember, they came before the committee, I think it was last year, and shared their mission statement and action plan district-wide. Nat and Brenda came and did that. And then R&D is something that's the R&D update to the school committee, which happened, I believe, was in the fall when we did that. And then the ongoing curriculum review is just something that we do as a matter of course now whenever we look at new curriculum or we're looking at books or library books or whatever. We have a anti-bias form that we go through and check off whether or not we've done each one of these categories. So that's been something that Christine has led that's been really successful as part of this effort. So this continues. School safety, a lot under this. We have a new SRO this year who Pete has been a great addition and been super helpful to administrators and the kids. He's been really, really good. We're going to continue our threat assessment protocols. We have some video screens that we're putting at the high school that will make it easier for our staff to see who's at the door. So we're doing that this summer to increase that. Hallway cameras at Wheelock, those were installed this school year, which have been really good as well. Erin Watson, teacher at Wheelock, said when they install, I guess now they're going to catch me running down the halls all the time like the kids. But so that I think that's been something that's been important to put in all of our schools. Again, Dale Street doesn't have a lot of that particular items because we really don't want to install that knowing that we're hopefully someday get a new building. Bike and pedestrian safety has been really good for not only the second and third grades, but at Dale Street. Our partnership with the police department has really helped us out with that. As you see, if you go by there tomorrow morning, you'll see there's a lot of bikes at both the elementary schools and the middle school. A lot of kids, which is great. We want our kids moving, but it certainly they need to have some support on the safety part as well.
I saw that yesterday, I think, when I was driving around. I wondered how, I know it was a certain group of kids, I don't know if they divide the class up and have.
Oh, the town tour, yes.
Yeah.
So that was.
With the bicycle.
Our 8th grade does a tour of the town, and they go to different spots. They go to town hall, and the town clerk goes through kind of local government, and then they go to different historic areas in town.
On bicycles?
On bicycles, yes.
No,
Yeah, so they did it last week, and then I think yesterday was the last day, the last
Yeah.
class going through 8th grade.
I saw that. I did stop and let them all go ahead.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Fire department, they come in and do some home safety assemblies with our grade 5 and our Dale Street kids, which we, again, really love that partnership with them. multiple fire and safety drill practices throughout the school year. So it's interesting with the safety drill, you think it's the police department, but the fire department also is a part of that, and they come. So we'll do a few safety drills, and then they're required fire drills each year as well. For the first time ever, there was a joint police and fire training at the high school during April vacation. So they spent 2 full days here, different groups of folks doing some training here, which was unfortunately active shooter training, those kinds of things. So they have to do that. They have to learn how to do all that. And they, I was able to attend one of the days and go through the training with them. And they did a really nice job with it. So really happy they were able to finally get in and do that. Grade 1 has a fire presentation every year, which is helpful. And kindergarten does read aloud with the fire department. And then in July and October of this year, so in July, Medfield Police Department will be doing some training with the administrators, and then in October, doing some training with all of our middle school and secondary staff. So that's been real helpful, and again, the partnership with our other department chairs and department heads in town has been really, really positive. So safety and belonging continues with the restorative practices. So one of the things that we talked about during the development of the strategic plan was, are there other ways that students can be disciplined without just the traditional, you're suspended or you get detention? Like, what are some things that we can do as a school to do things where kids can learn from mistakes? Because they're all going to make mistakes, and we've done some pretty good work with restorative practice, especially at the high school level. And then we've discussed it at staff meetings and talked about it at all levels. So looking at alternative ways other than the traditional methods of discipline for students, and that continues. We're going to continue on with that and expand that as we can. School start, you're going to say something?
Is that the staff training schedule, is that are circles happen? Is that specific restorative practices or more just overall?
Overall.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a pretty foreign concept here, so.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's probably more high school folks knew about it, but definitely a foreign concept to a lot of people. So really just kind of getting the baseline understanding of what it looks like and why someone's not getting just suspended all, that kind of thing. Because I think sometimes as a teacher, you want to know why something happened, and so we really did some background on what the restorative practices look like and what they could be, for kids. One of the big ones that we implemented this year was our school start time. Just some really, data that we got from the high school this week. Non-excused tardies are down 23% with the new start time, and non-excused absences down 24%. So, just 2 data points, but I think, pretty meaningful when you look at it. Those are some of the issues that we think we had with kids when they had to be here at 7:20 or 7:30 instead of being here a little bit an hour later. So,
And Dr. Marsden, just reflecting on those numbers, they seem to have quite improved over, I think, when you reported out mid-year. We
didn't have that data mid-year.
Oh, we didn't?
This is just the end of the year data compared to what it was the same time last year.
Gotcha.
Yep.
Gotcha. Yeah, I remember you mentioning something that you
We had-
hadn't seen much.
It was totally anecdotal mid-year.
Gotcha.
We got the real stuff now. We went through it.
That's significant, I
That's
think.
versus the same time as last year.
That's significant.
No, you're not kidding.
Yeah.
Pretty good.
That's great. I'd also be curious if tardies have increased in elementary school, just
Yeah.
personally. There are definitely days where I'm like, you're gonna get to sleep in because sick something, after so I'm curious, if the comparison of that from last year to this year.
Part of our summertime retreat is kind of looking at that
Yeah.
data and trying to figure that out, because I think that could be a negative data point on
Yeah.
this, right? For sure. It was just that Brenda was working on this data, last week and sent it my way, so I think that was important to share tonight. We're going to do we have a 6-question survey that's going to parents tomorrow that asks them about, their experiences with the changes in start time. One of the things that came out of the parent guardian advisory last week was they suggested that we had something else around traffic. So I had a question on traffic there. I just had more about kid-focused and family-focused, and they thought based on some of the traffic that folks have been in this year, that might be something to get some feedback on. So we did add that 6th question as part of it. And the extended day program, we're going to continue that next year as well. That has been really positive for families. It's been a bargain for sure for families, and it's something that has fit nicely into their their family lifestyle, and it's very, very convenient. So talked to Holly last week, and she's going to run it again next year. And, we've already started to get, she sent out information to parents to get them signed up a little bit earlier this year, so that's been great. So we, that's something that we just adapted to a need. There were parents that needed that 45-minute time frame and didn't need the whole, 3 or 4 hours after school, and it worked out really, really well. So some days we have 65 minutes. It worked out great. Not all days, but some days. Okay, our next one is community engagement and communication. Internal, external communication plan. I think another big initiative this year was we had the big three. We had Wayfinder, we had Parent Square, we had school start times. And Parent Square was definitely another big initiative this year. So, utilized by all of our schools with the teachers doing direct messages and information to families. And we actually started using it for field trips at the high school in the spring to see how it would work. So we decided last week at leadership, was that this week? This week at leadership, that we're going to do that at the elementaries next year. So it really, it makes it super efficient for families to just do it through Parent Square. The only thing that doesn't do, which it could, but doesn't work for us, is it also could take the money. But because we do everything through My School Bucks, it's a lot cheaper to do it through that for the families than it is, because there's a surcharge that Parent Square charges for every interaction with that. So it was cheaper for us to keep it on My School Bucks for families. But we're going to do that this year. And there's also attendance features that we're going to try. So we did that at the high school, where it sends out an automatic text or email, depending on what people have signed up for, as their notification. And when their child is tardy or absent, they get it that way. So we're going to do that for elementary, but we're going to continue to still make the phone call for elementary and middle school. So K to 8 will get the email and or the text and a phone call on top of that. So we're going to continue to do that until we feel comfortable for the younger kids that it's working really well. High school worked great, but it's different when they're 15 or 17 or 18.
So field trip, you're saying that we won't get a paper slip home that we have to sign, it's kind of electronically
Right.
transferred?
Right. Yeah, it's slick, how it works. It's really good. So.
And then from an absence standpoint, what will happen is if we don't set up our school dismissal manager, we'll get a text that says your child is absent today, to give a parent.
Either way, I think it's going to be automatic. So Aspen, Parent Square gets the information from Aspen, is going to send it right out.
Once attendance posts,
Yeah.
this is what happens for us, it automatically goes out.
If I know that, is this like a notification, like if I didn't fill out something I'm supposed to fill out, or do I get that notification either way?
You'll get it the way that you set up your Parent Square. So if you chose text, you'll get it as a text. If you chose email, you get it as an email.
With SDM then?
I don't know, we don't have SDM, so yeah, your question is if I've already put my kid as absent.
School dismissal manager.
Yes.
We would still be utilizing that, right?
Yes.
And I mark my child as absent.
Yes.
Am I still getting a notification from parents that they're absent?
Yeah.
Okay, so, okay.
Well, why would we keep STM if we're going to use parent? Is that supposed to be
Well, that's
replacement?
dismissal.
It's,
No, we still need
it's
a
different,
dismissal.
yeah.
So what role well, never mind.
The kids are old now.
I'll
Yeah,
figure it out.
yeah.
Yeah.
You don't need us.
Well, I mean, I
Yeah.
think it's a little duplicate,
Yeah.
Parent Square just tells you your kid's absent.
Oh, I see. That's what I see. It's just going to replace the robocall. I see.
It will, but we'll still do a call for K to 8 initially anyway.
Gotcha.
And we'll still do that. But it worked out really well with the high school. We tried it out with them for the last couple of months, and we think it's worked out well. So the thing that we're going to expand this year with Parent Square is all of our coaches. So all of our coaches will be required to use Parent Square as their mode of communication, because you know that we have Student Square at the high school. So kids can communicate with their coaches. It's archived. It's, we have all that information, so there's no issues around it. We've always told our coaches they can't text with kids or any of that. It's got to be through email, but this is a more immediate, the kids have the app, coaches have an app. It's just, really immediate communication. So that'll be new for next year.
One just thought is, I hear a lot of people say that no matter what you do, no one likes it. Either they're overwhelmed or they're not getting enough communication. Like no one, I understand that.
Right.
I think sometimes the ease of Parent Square means that like messages go out a lot more than I'm like, oh, there's another one. Oh, there's another one. And I get it, because like I personally do it. I'm like, I'll just send it direct right now.
Right.
But I do think there's some space for like reminding people to be thoughtful about, like, that could have been in the newsletter, but now it's an extra one, that could have been in this, because it definitely, it feels like how easy it is means that the amount is,
And before Parent Square, it was lost in the newsletter,
Yeah.
can you send it an email? So it's.
Yes,
it's,
oh,
you
yeah.
know,
But once you add coaches too,
Right.
like, I can see people
Yeah.
being like, when's the game? Like, I don't know
When
anymore.
Leo and Michelle and I met with PTO folks or whatever this spring, that was some feedback that we got. And, you know, we got this feedback the year before
Yeah.
that we need
Oh, yeah.
something that just does it all in one place, so that's what we did. So I know it's tough, and communication, you know, and I think if, the one thing we're gonna do too is try to, at the parent information nights, is to try to have someone there to help people through it again, because sometimes they don't have the settings correctly, and that's maybe why they're missing things or whatever, so kind of go through that a little bit.
Guilty.
I won't go through all the core value stuff, but I think it's pretty clear there what we're doing with that. The website update, we were looking at doing that, just didn't make it in the FY27 budget, it's just not there. So we're still using Apogee for our website. We'd like to migrate over to Parent Square if we could, because it would just be one neat package for us. It would make life a lot easier, so right now when we post something on Parent Square, it's not really as efficient. We have to make a PDF sometimes and post it on, it would just be automatic whenever we posted anything. So, and Parent Square has got some really good reliability with their websites that we've seen. We've talked to other districts that have it. So maybe in FY28, but it didn't make it in FY27. Homeschool Connection, again, I'll just highlight a few of these. Medfield Talks, we had one this year with Zoom again in the fall, which we're going to, again, focus on mobile phone and technology use on those for this year again. Leadership engagement, 6 superintendent advisory meetings. I think parents have called that a safe space where they can talk with me and bring up issues, so it's really important for parents to have that opportunity to have, you know, one-on-one conversations with me and then bring up any issues they have. It's a really important thing. So school and community liaison presentations, PTO, principals' coffees, et cetera. Just really trying to work with the community. Our principals do a great job with that as well. And then the ongoing collaboration with our school-based organizations. And as I said earlier, Michelle, Leo, and I have had conversations twice a year. Michelle, we do twice a year, just getting feedback from all the organizations and some things that are on their minds, things that can help them. Translation is something that came up. It was interesting that it came up through that process because we got a lot of feedback on the lack of understanding or knowledge about the translations. We've done a lot of work with that. One of the greatest things that we do with Parent Square is that it translates into the language that people choose, which really is great for the families that want that, and makes it easier because the conversations back and forth with the teacher and the family would get it in language they want, the teacher would get it in language they want, and it's really efficient in that way. So that's been really really effective for us, the use of Parent Square. Again, one of the things that we did try to talk about with best practices around Parent Square is that some teachers were doing messages and not posts, or posts and not messages, and so we're going to do a little bit of work on that in the fall to make sure everyone's clear about, you know, what that distinction is between a post and a message. I know I got feedback where, actually at that meeting, Michelle, where a teacher was sending a message directly to a family, but everyone else is getting it as well, and so just kind of understanding what that looks like and making sure that everyone's on board with that. Now getting into curriculum, instruction, and assessment. So we had a math vertical team that did a great job over the last 2 years, kind of looking at our math curriculum and instruction and learning around math, and that's representation from K to 12 on that committee that Christine leads that. So they are going to do, one of the deliverables they're going to do is a presentation on the first day this year, much like English did last year, of what similar concepts look like as they go through the grades, which is really a powerful presentation for everybody in the staff to see, because if you're in high school land, you don't know what happens at Memorial. And if you're at Memorial, you don't know what happens at Blake. And it's really a nice way to bring everyone together on that first day so they can see that everyone fits in that cog to make it all work for kids. And so they'll be doing that as well. on our first meeting this year. We've established that curriculum review process. We have a schedule for that, so that's all set. And then one of the things we need to look at in 26, 27 with the policy subcommittee is the homework policy. We talked about doing that, and we need to kind of do that a little more. Then our acceptable use policy, which is really old too. I know we updated it as part of our curriculum, as part of our policy review with MASC, but we need to kind of look at that again and update that probably in 26, 27. So a lot of good work there, but again, the crux of this work is working with people and getting everyone together on committees and in the same room to talk about curriculum instruction. AI guidelines, we talked about in this group here. We did a presentation on that. The district did some professional development on Digital Learning Day on AI. In the tech integrationist, they presented all of that work in expectations and guidelines at faculty meetings. Curriculum maps, that was something we had to update as part of NEAS. So in this year, we updated our high school curriculum maps based on the NEAS recommendations and requirements. So we are mid-cycle in NEAS. I forget what year we're in, but that was one of the reports that they were pretty happy with what we did, but they wanted us to make sure that we aligned our curriculum maps on the way they wanted. So timely professional development needs. There's a whole list of PD there. I will just highlight the PD committee, which started, I think when my arrival in that first contract, there was a professional development committee that we started, and now they continue to work and put a plan together, which is great. I would say, let's see, literacy training is ongoing for implementation of bookworms. So we've done some training all spring, and then there will be training in the summer as well for our elementary teachers on bookworms, so they can get used to that. At least try to get the first quarter of the year ready to go over the summer, so they're ready to start in September. So that's, if you remember, that's the only really R&D money we put in was for the elementary teachers to do some of that work. We have a partnership with ArcSed. They do the mandated training. That's been really good, really efficient for our teachers to do it on their own time and not have to sit through presentations. They can, whenever they want, go through the ArcSed module, and they get all their mandated training done. Grade 5 has done a lot of work with Mass Historical Society. So they've done some training with them on the professional development with DESE, but they've also had recently, Mass Historical Society visited Dale Street to look at some of the projects that our kids had done, and they've invited our teachers to do some more work with them. So that's been a great partnership with them as well. Looking at the emotional learning, social emotional learning curriculum, again, that's Wayfinder, that's complete. Streamlined student transition between grades and schools, I think that's something that we've talked about a lot at this level and everywhere. We got a lot of feedback on that during our process. Again, with spring feedback from our 9th grade students. There was a study done with Boston College on looking at our transition from 8th to 9th grade. So some of those findings were shared with the leadership team. Incoming pin for all schools, which has been really a positive thing that our principals have been doing for a while now, and that really works out well. We get great feedback on that. And then our transition day, which we started about 10 or 11 years ago, in which elementary students get to meet their teachers for the next school year, which has been really positive for our students and for our teachers.
Question. Sorry.
Oh, it's okay.
So I just about the streamlined student transitions, I know that has come up a few times, and I know that there's been some very intentional work with like thinking about study habits and sort of what are some of the soft skills and executive functioning skills that kids need, and like there's some feeling that like that's some of the difficulty with the transition from 8 to 9. I guess I'm curious about like where, and I know that, so they've done some work with that. Like I saw some of the stuff they were doing with that, but I guess I'm wondering just like, what are we looking at for indicators for like, how effective that has been, right? Because I think they've done a few things differently this year, and I think they have plans to do more, so that's just...
I think they do it qualitatively with the 9th grade feedback.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so they're going to look at that 9th grade feedback and try to get as much information as they can from that. And I think that the feedback they've gotten over the last year or two has really been driving some of the things they want to do. You know, I think some of that came when all of the guidance folks go down to Blake and meet with their students they're going to have in high school, so that on that first day of school, at least they know someone in the building, right? They know their friends, but there's a trusted adult in which they have spent time with and met, in middle school, that's now going to be their contact in high school, so that we're not meeting that counselor when you want to drop a class or have an issue. You've already had that relationship started with them, so that's been really positive too. I just mentioned that. Open house and elementary principals coffees. One thing I want to highlight here, special education parent meet and greet with service providers. That's been a nice thing for transition. So Mary and the teachers will schedule a time in which parents can come in during the day and meet the service providers they're going to have the following year when they switch schools. So parents from Memorial get to go to Wheelock to Dale, etc. And that's been a really nice thing to kind of ease the concerns or the anxiety parents might have around that. They get to meet the provider, and that's been something that Mary started that's been very positive. So our last one, finance, facilities, and personnel. So 4.1, sustainable budget strategies. Just a couple of things. The solar memorial was completed. We had our ribbon cutting ceremony a few weeks ago. And then looking at new roof and solar is definitely ongoing. I know we talked with Select that day about what are some other options we could do to add solar around the district. If it's not just roof or just not parking lot, are there other areas we can do that? So they're going to talk to us, I believe, over the summer to look at that. And then certainly the override town partnership with both the annual town meeting and ballot, and our Unit A negotiations are currently in progress and hope to have that done very soon. And then looking at our capital, the baseball turf was completed this year, and then the rooftop unit at the high school, we have one. One of the things that things that happened during COVID is that our rooftop units were running at a pace that they typically wouldn't run because we're trying to get so much fresh air in the buildings. And some of those rooftop units are 25 years old and they're failing. So we had a couple fail already, and this one is going to be replaced over the summer as part of the capital project. And then finally, we're going to get the Wheelock parking lot paved. We held off on that because that was part of the Dale Street project that was going there. So that it's because that didn't happen. We waited for capital funds the last couple of years, and now that's all going to be replaced. Because if you haven't been over to Wheelock, it's tough over there right now.
Yeah.
That circle is bad. So we're happy that's going to get done this summer. We'll have a nice new paved area over there.
With accurate lines drawn on there too for the traffic patterns.
Right.
Yeah.
Because it changed a few years ago. The traffic patterns there. Yeah. For
COVID.
Sure.
Yeah.
I would love to pave that whole area because everyone parks on the grass anyway.
Yeah.
It'd be kind of nice to pave that whole area and do that, but we're parking the buses over there, that'd be great too, but we're not there yet. And then, of course, Dale Street School is back in MSBA, so we have our OPM, RFS, trying to get an architect, that will start happening next week with the school building committee. And right now, the town vote is scheduled for somewhere around February of 2028. So kind of move that along. That's been a great process, and our school building committee has been working real hard on that. I think it's only a couple, we're almost there. I apologize, I know it's a lot of stuff. Just collaborate with the town to establish new revenue streams. We looked at, again, the successful override. We looked at establishing new fees. We talked about the bus fees and that kind of thing. We've raised our prices again for kindergarten and preschool, unfortunately, and then looking at literacy being funded at annual town meeting. That was kind of a unique way to get that funded, and we appreciate the town coming up with that idea for us. And then long-term sustainable technology. Owen's been real hard at work doing some of this work, the MacBook replacements, security cameras, interactive projectors, which are end of life that he's been working with. And then two big projects coming up this summer, a new PA system at Wheelock, and then the new building alarm system at the high school, which are coming through capital. So a lot happening there as well, and hopefully those go smoothly and we're ready to roll at the end of August, beginning of September when school starts.
Just back for a moment to preschool and kindergarten. We're having full-day kindergarten still.
Right.
But it's still fee.
So yeah, so we had originally, at this current school year, we had it at $2,750, down from the $3,300. And now, based on what we did with projections from the budget, we brought it back up to where it was. This next school year, this 26-27 was going to be the first year where there was no cost. That was part of the plan we rolled out a couple of years ago. So we need to kind of start over that again and look at making sure that we can provide it at no cost as part of that cost of the Medfield experience, right? Is adding that tuition in there. That's why we wanted to pull that out.
So some kids will have half day, some will have full day?
So we have had all full day for the last 2 years.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
it's all full day.
all full day.
And if there have been situations where families had a hardship, we've worked with Medfield Foundation, worked with Outreach, and done some work with them so that folks could afford it to come, so.
Good, I'm glad it's still all full day and not,
Absolutely. Really
doesn't
important
make
for that.
sense to go back to.
Right,
Thank you.
right. And then kind of next steps that we have, this is the last slide, I promise. We have to update our dashboard, so I met with Neil this week, and we have our dashboard that we need to update based on what I just presented to you now. And then review the areas of focus, which we do in the summertime at our retreat, and then we present to you in September, October, kind of what we're thinking of the areas that we're looking at for this school year, and if there's any other areas that you think we should be looking at, we either add or subtract at that point, and then that cadence starts up again with a halfway point presentation at the end of the year. So typically I do this just on a memo form, but because we're looking at the entire process, I thought it made sense to put it in presentation form for tonight. There was a lot of slides, I apologize.
I mean, it's okay,
Yeah.
it's a dense plan, right?
It is.
And
And there's a lot of good stuff going on.
Yeah, no, and
Yeah.
I think it's always really impressive to hear what you and your team are able to do against that plan, because I recognize when we first published it, like we talked about that a lot, like it's a lot.
It was
It's a lot
daunting.
of work. It's
Yeah.
very dense, there's a lot of stuff going on there, so yeah, no apologies, I think it's great to work with everything, so.
I think just dovetailing off that, I think this is definitely a long but very impressive list of accomplishments. And I think this kind of goes back to where my question was initially. I think, and I've been flipping back and forth between this slide, these set of slides, and the actual plan, which is beautifully organized. And I like how you guys laid out sort of strategy, actions, what indicators we would use to evaluate the success of those actions, and so on and so forth. But I think it would be super useful to have these sort of updates organized in kind of like the same rubric, so that we'd be able to kind of understand where we are against the plan. Like in 4.4, we've checked off 3 or 4 things here. We've got 2 more teed up for July, which will presumably, be completed. Are there any other bullets that, fall into that bucket? And they're probably not. Maybe yes, maybe no. But you know what I mean?
Yeah, I know what you mean, yeah.
Because I think there is so much good work being done here. It would be useful to be able to say, we've done all this, and in the context of that, our 3-year strategic plan, that means, we are well on track, we are not on track, we are whatever, but yeah.
And we try to do that with the dashboard, and we try to accomplish that
Okay.
with it, but it's,
Okay.
it's not as accurate as what you're saying, I think. That's
Yeah.
why we need to, I'm meeting with Neil to kind of go over that dashboard so you can see.
Okay.
And we used almost like a gas gauge, so to speak, in your car of like, where you are, like
Yeah, sure.
percentage-wise, as a visual. Because I think the committee at that point, the steering committee, were looking for something like that, more of a visual. But yeah, we can
Oh,
look
cool.
at that.
Yeah,
for sure.
great.
I think it makes sense.
I printed out the original one, like I get what you
Yeah.
mean, because I was like, I like the key
Yeah.
actions,
Yeah.
that's what I was like,
Yeah,
I
no,
printed
it's really
around
well
both to
done.
compare.
Is there ever, or maybe you've had opportunities to have a retreat with school committee to spend more time on these things, or not?
We've typically done that on
Yeah.
the workshop day.
Okay.
On the workshop day, we've typically gone through that and kind of fleshed it out a little bit and talked about any issues that have surfaced that maybe were not in the plan that should be there, or some, as Michelle said earlier, that was the mobile phone task force wasn't part of the strategic plan, but it bubbled up from those conversations and, became something that we did. But yeah, that's what we typically do on those days.
Anything else?
Anything else? Okay, thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Dr. Martin.
Thank you, Dr. Martin.
You,
All right. Old business it is. Please want to discuss the policy JKAA.
Yeah, let me get back to my spot. I opened up about 3 copies of that presentation. I got lost on my. Yes, the timeout seclusion. this is a new policy that, a policy adjustment, if you will, required by state law to comply with how timeout and seclusion are reported. When we have to report those, students should never really be secluded ever, unless it's part of any one of their specialized plans, which I've yet to see one. So my fellow educators have seen them, but they are rare. And any time a student is secluded and or in timeout, there's documentation that goes with that. It's usually a part of their plan. This is just an outline, of that policy that we should adopt as part of the school district. So, and this was brought to us by Mary Brule as part of that update. And I believe this is our second reading. And so if you have any concerns, you'd like to make adjustments or questions, you can voice them now. And I believe we vote on the next meeting. On this one. No. So the committee recommends a passing of this policy JKAA. And I will make a motion, unless there's any discussion, to pass policy JKAA.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Carries. Thanks, Leo. Okay, next up we have the mobile phone social media task force. Okay, no update since last week. School building committee update.
We don't meet till the 17th, so there'll be no update since last week.
RFS was in, so that was due yesterday. So Michael, seven? You have seven firms that submitted, so I know that that's going to be part of the meeting on the 17th. Go through that and talk to
Finally get to go.
You think these are fun? That one's way better.
Any updates on community engagement or communication since last week? Okay. Any informational items?
So certainly with mixed emotions that I just, I know you folks know, but they announced that Michael will be becoming the new CFO of the Shady Hill School in Cambridge after 12 years in Medfield. He's going back to private sector after 23 years in education in the public sector. We are very, very, very happy for him, but very sad for us, and just want to wish him all the best.
We motion against that?
He will be working until just about the end of July with us, so now we're looking at someone to do a position, but not to replace him, for sure. So we'll look at that as well, but just really happy for Michael. It's a really exciting opportunity for him and for his family. So just want to thank him for all the great work he's done.
Congratulations.
Thank you, Mike.
Congratulations.
Had a party planned, but it's been cut. There's a bunch of stuff.
I just wanted to say I met with all the principals and
Good.
I really enjoyed meeting each and every one of them, so
They said the same about you.
that's good. Thank you. It was a good experience, thank you.
Anything else? Okay. So the next meeting is in August, but we will likely have it in July, right?
Right.
Yeah. So I think I asked you guys to just send me
Yep.
dates that you're away in July, so just send it to me directly. We'll try to coordinate from there. Zoom is what I'm hoping. Okay, so we'll be via Zoom in July, and then our next in-person meeting will be August 27th.
Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second,
All in favor?
Aye.
Great, thanks everybody.
thank you.